So we all know on some level that internal validation means more than external validation. However, this is a lot easier to say than to live. When I was a kid, I had a very distinct experience that showed the struggles that I would have later on. Because I wouldn't focus in the way the school expected me to, they gave me a box with toys in it. And in order for me to get one of those toys at the end of the day, I'd have to do what they expected of me. So before the school year started, though, that year, between second and third grade, I was celebrated by one of the teachers for thinking outside of the box. And there's something ironic about giving someone a box after praising them for thinking outside of it. And I know that that's part of the school system. I don't take it personally, but it showed in a very obvious way a pattern that our society gives people a ton of extra goals, exterior things to value other than the intrinsic value of what you're doing. For me in that situation, it was school. And later on, I began to value grades, and that became the replacement for that treasure box. And then, as we get older, it turns into a whole lot of other things. For some people, it's finding a romantic partner. They're only valuable when they have someone else in their life. For other people, it's accomplishment in games or sports. They're only valuable when they're achieving. And it comes in much more subtle ways as well, like in religious institutions where people are valued for their attainments or some other thing in the religion that makes them accomplished and gives them the authority to instruct other people. So people are chasing these external gratifications. And later on for me, that was embodied with the first social media account that I ever had, which was for gaming. I was a gaming content creator on TikTok, and I had 80,000 followers, which to me seemed very awesome in a way. But I was super depressed and didn't have good friendships or connections at the time, so I was miserable. And to this day, people value that experience, and I value it in its own right, but it taught me that valuing external validation over what you're actually going through inside is a mistake. Because while everyone thinks you're on the top of the world, you're suffering, and you have to pretend in some way because you want to appear appreciative or like you fit the role, like you're all good. And for me, balancing the fact that we need to relate to the external world, not everything's about how we see ourselves, while also knowing that you're not going to be satisfied unless that internal need for validation is found inside. You're not going to be happy no matter what you do unless something in you says, I'm good enough the way I am. And this is a huge root of ableism, internalized ableism, because we feel like we have to keep doing something to be worthy. We feel like we have to be appreciated by everyone. And that's just not realistic, because there's always going to be someone in your comment section or in your personal life or in some institution who's going to bash what you're doing. For example, if you're an acupuncturist, there's going to be some scientist that hates what you're doing because they don't think it has empirical evidence. Or you're a scientist, and people who are into more holistic kinds of healing are going to hate you in some way because you're not doing what they think is up to standards. So it's a mutual animosity that unless the person who's doing what they're doing respects themselves on their own terms, they're never going to get the satisfaction from everyone. And if you're in a certain religion, there's an infinite number of comparisons almost. You could choose any philosophy or religion to compare against what you believe. And if you only value what other people believe, then it's going to cause you a lot of suffering, because you're going to feel like you have to argue with everyone who disagrees with you in order to feel like you're worthy of having your belief. And that just doesn't feel good. It feels terrible. And it's one of my goals in life to try and understand how to live with internal validation as much as possible while still acknowledging the outside world and not ignoring it entirely. And this is hard. I'm a sensitive person and I'm not perfect. So there's plenty of things people can criticize me for. And I don't want to take away their right to criticize me, because then I'd just be a dictator in my own right. And that's what dictators often do. They can't accept criticism from anyone, so they just kill off anyone that they don't like. And that's cowardice. The courage comes from being able to accept criticism from other people and discern what's real or fake. Anyways, thanks for listening to my exploration. And please subscribe and leave a comment